Good.
Hey, Mr. Sam.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm well. And you?
Oh, yeah.
Fabulous.
Fabulous.
Hello. Yeah.
Fabulous for a Monday. I like short weeks.
That's right. It's the holiday.
Yes.
Give away your advice, please. Hello, everyone. It's 6 o'clock. Let's go ahead and I call this meeting to order. Can we get Nick Sutton up here to do the pledge? I'm sorry, to do the prayer.
Here, you can take mine.
All right, let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for these opportunities to come together in a nation that was built under God, that was built on God. And you being our Creator lets us know that we are capable of great, great, amazing things. And I just pray, God, that you remind this city council and all the people in this town and beyond of the greatness that you have created us to be, that any obstacle in our way, we can get through it. Any illness or sickness or poverty or anything else, when we elevate our minds to the place that you have created us to take them to, we can solve all problems. This is a very, very rare thing that these wonderful people in Houston, Georgia are allowing us to do, God. I ask that you bless every mind, every heart, every soul, and every activity that they do that reaches the public, that you help us to become a greater town, a greater state, a greater nation, and a greater world. And in Jesus Christ's name, or whoever you pray to, amen.
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 Thank you,
Amen.
Nick. Scott, do you want to do the pledge, please? Scott Butler?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, the first item on the agenda tonight is so I need a motion for agenda approval.
Yes.
Any changes to the agenda? No? Okay, then a motion.
Yes, I make a motion to approve the agenda. as
Second?
stands.
Second.
So I just want to tell you all something a little new I'm going to do tonight. I'm not going to start with this one, but I am going to do underneath the next items, is I'm going to be going around and asking for each person's vote, like a roll call vote. This one I will not do since it's the agenda. So in this case, all in favor? No opposed. Also, I need a motion for the minutes approval. Let me read the minutes from October 12, 2023, public hearing, October 12, 2023, work session, October 16, 2023, regular meeting, and October 24, 2023, special called meeting. A motion to approve all those minutes?
I make a motion to approve all those minutes.
And is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? None opposed. Thank you. We don't need to talk about the reports, right? No, okay. Okay, so we all want to talk about old business, resolution 2023 and 2023-14, and also, ordinance zero, is it O or zero? It's an O, sorry, -23-05. These are the, corridor maps. I'm going to defer to Jerry to summarize. Jerry, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. These matters have been on the agenda since September, and was postponed in September and also in October. And so here we are in November, and you could table it again. You have the option. However, we believe that it's been on the agenda long enough for the council to try and come to grips and try and make a decision on it. And we would recommend that you consider it tonight. One of your options is, of course, if the council feels strongly that you don't like the proposals and you motion to deny it, that's one option for you. Another option is to approve it exactly the way it is. That's probably not very likely either, and so I want to make a recommendation, and that is that there's 4 different maps, and then there's pieces of road on each map, more than one on a few of them. And by the way, the maps, there's the same set of maps for both of these items, okay? So we're really talking about the maps that go with Resolution 2314 and Ordinance 2305. And my suggestion would be to take each of those map proposals one at a time, and I'll go through and explain a little bit about it. Each one has some history, has some things that you probably need to be aware of, and that then I give it back to the mayor for a vote on whether you want to, and this is important, if you want to include it in a motion for approval, okay? You wouldn't be voting on that item at that time, but you would be authorizing it to be included in a motion, and then you can vote one way on one and still vote against ultimately against it at the end if you don't like the particular mix of roads and so forth that's in there. But at least we'd have consensus on what to vote on, and then that doesn't mean it's going to be approved. So that would be my recommendation for how to dispense with this matter, and it could take you, some minutes for me to explain and for you to discuss, but that's, I think, what's needed at this point.
I agree. I'd like to get the council input. Sam, can I start with you? What's your thoughts on that?
I thought we were going to take each one
Well, that's
piece by piece.
That's one of his recommendations. I'm asking if do you agree to that?
Sure.
Dave?
I agree to that. I like that because being new, I am not real clear on all the maps and where we're going. And I've also had some questions from some citizens that I'd like to kind of get answered as well. So yes, I like that idea.
Dr. Sterling?
It's okay the way it is. Doesn't really need to be explained again because it's been before the council before.
So that's 2-1 right there. James?
As Jerry said, it's been on the agenda, and we've talked about it. We tabled it. We've had citizens come forward at every meeting that's concerned about it.
Yeah.
The roads going right through their houses. I do think it might be brought up again with a full council and have some fresh outlook on it, or maybe even talk to the people that it's going to affect their property. So I'm okay with the way it is.
Tracy?
I'm okay with the way it is.
So that's 1, 2, 3. I think it's a tie. It's 3-3.
But this isn't a vote on it.
No. It's whether we want Jerry to, as he recommended, either
How
go.
long is it going to take, Jerry? For each the map?
My guess is it would take me about up to 15 minutes, and with discussion, it could be 5 to 10 minutes longer, maybe even longer, depending on how you react to it.
Well, the corridors that we're looking at, will it substantially change the flow of traffic and so forth for Houston's future? Potentially?
Yes.
Has there been traffic studies that indicate that, or
No.
you met with DOT, you met with Jackson County, this is just you, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, I think if it is going to change the future potentially, that 5 to 15 minutes is well worth the time.
I agree. Sorry, council, I'm gonna ask Jerry to go through them. Sorry. I think it's important.
Okay, very well. I will do that. So the first map is a multi-use trail, 20 feet wide, on the west side of State Route 53. There is an existing path that dead ends into this green line right now to the south. There's also a conditions of zoning approval by way of Dr. Kumar and the property up there, the one labeled 12001A. And that property is conditionally zoned, and he's got conditions of approval to incorporate a multi-use path through his property. And so the only piece really that's new and is the piece between existing and Kumar's piece. And so this reserves, if you adopt it, it reserves a 20-foot wide strip of land to be used as a future multi-use path. Questions?
And the development that's off of Peachtree now has already built a part of that path to tie in, haven't they?
That's correct. The Alma Farm subdivision, and it's shown on this map, an existing pathway. That existing pathway, the city's in the process. This is a real project, folks.
Mm-hmm.
The city is working now, if it's not already installed, to have a safe pedestrian crossing across Peachtree Road. And then this connects, you've seen the new road called Gateway Crossing that would lead you to the public shopping center. That road is already in. The multi-use path is there on the south side. And so you have a real prospect of going from Twin Lakes by multi-use path all the way to basically almost to the downtown, at least to Dr. Kumar's project, and then we can just work it out on White Street or some other future to get from Twin Lakes PUD to downtown by multi-use path, meaning by foot, bicycle, perhaps golf cart path as well. I think we've got that authorized as well. So it's actually a pretty exciting one.
Is there enough easement on White Street to do that with a golf cart path here?
Well, White Street, you may recall that we've been trying to get right-of-way from folks, including Tracy has ultimately, when he got his property rezoned there, he had a right-of-way dedication. It's only 30 feet or 40 feet. I think it's only a 30-foot right-of-way, and so is it 30?
I think you're right.
Okay, and so the answer to Mr. Lawson is no, we really don't unless we try and make it one way or something like that, and I don't think we can for this stretch. But in any event, we need to, we'd have to develop it further. We'd have to do something else to get the north leg above Industrial Boulevard. That part's not guaranteed at this point.
Couldn't the street double as the path, especially the White Street, which is pretty lazy as far as traffic?
Well, it could. You could do a shared path, but normally you would do that with a bike lane and a vehicle lane, not a wider. A bike lane is usually only 5 feet. This multi-use path here is. We're going with our standard is 12 feet wide, and so you're really taking up a whole lane doing that, and you almost, under the current scenario, as Mr. Lawson is asking, we'd almost have to do it a one-way. We'd have to turn White Street into a one-way in order to do both of them in the existing pavement.
Any other questions on that one?
I've just got a statement. With the streets being, we have golf cart accessibility on our streets. Not just that segment, but maybe other segments of our streets double as cart paths instead of creating a path to make a one lane or.
Okay. Sure. I think you can you can do that. It's not, we'd rather have them separated for safety reasons,
Understood.
or at least designated separately rather than a shared lane, but it can be done that way, yes.
Dr. White, is it appropriate right now to go ahead and vote on these individuals?
If there's no other questions, I'd recommend that you bring this one to, the motion would be include or not include, and you're not voting for it, you're voting for it to be in a master motion that would include this project. And so, for example, if you voted for it, this one, and then you didn't like other votes that came ahead, you can still vote against the entire package once it comes up as a motion as a whole. Is that clear? Clear?
Clear.
Clear? Okay.
So you're saying, is there gonna be a traffic light there for Crestwind across the Gateway Crossing?
I haven't talked to Joe lately, I don't know if the city manager knows, but he was, looked at design of basically, I'd call it a speed table, a raised area that would slow traffic down, and with lighting, and where it's a light-activated pedestrian who wants to cross it, pushes the light and activates the light, and then that warns people to stop, and then it's safe, presumably safe to cross.
Are you talking on, were you talking on Peachtree?
On Peachtree Road.
Oh, really?
Crossing Peachtree Road.
Oh.
And,
I've
Jennifer,
seen that
you're
marked
familiar
out.
with that, and Joe's working on that, right? Is Mr. Cobb going to install it, I think?
Yeah, so, one of the conditions for, Mr. Cobb, which is the public's development, is to, fund $35,000 toward this project. And like you said, it will be a raised, speed hump and a crosswalk with lighting. And if you look, you can already see the,
Mm-hmm, so it's mapped out on the street
Yeah.
already.
yeah.
Yeah, see, that's right. We had the foresight when they asked for this additional entrance into Twin Lakes PUD, we made that a condition that they contribute $35,000 toward that crossing, and they're building the path themselves. So we haven't spent any money on building the path so far. And Mr. Cobb has decided, rather than pay us and let us do it, he's willing to go ahead and manage the project to get it done with the Public Works Director's oversight. And so we're going to get it fully funded.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about
That is
it myself.
Jerry, could you summarize, I think there was a question over here, it was a little unclear about the voting.
Well,
Could you summarize again?
what I meant is that if you take each of these and you say, yes, I vote to include it, or no, I vote to not include it, that's just a vote that sets up a motion on all of them. Okay, and so if you say yes to this, we'll include it in the motion, and we'll go on and decide about the other ones to see, are they going to be in the motion, or do you say, no, don't include them, vote them all out? You could have a map that did all this, and this one green line was all you approved, or any example, any infinite.
For
you know.
both of the old business items, is that correct?
For both of them, yeah, because
Okay.
the set of maps is the same for both, and so you'll have ultimately two different motions, but you can use this exercise
Yeah.
to be
So really what
applied to all of it.
we want to ask ourselves now is, do we want to include this map in the old business items 1 and 2? It's really a yes or no, and then we'll motion later whether we're going to approve items, old business 1 and 2. Correct?
Yes, and like I said, I'm prefacing this with the understanding that at any time a council member can make a motion to deny this, and you can bring that to vote. If it's denied, we're done,
Mhm.
okay? I mean, it's as simple as that.
Well, with that then, I'd like to include this in our packet, as is.
Do I have to do a vote, or can I just go around the room?
I mean, you can ask individual,
Yeah.
but at the very end is when you'll do your
Yeah,
main
when we're
packet.
done doing all the math. Yeah, I know. Sam, in or
I'm-
out?
I'm good with this particular piece of the overall, yeah.
Dr. Sterling? Tracy?
I'm good with this.
I'm good.
Okay, so this one's in? let's go to the next one.
Okay, the next one is, Peachtree Road Extension, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, this one's deserves a little bit of explanation, because what you have to keep in mind is, we were doing this, I was, as city planner, while we were still entertaining zoning applications. And what we have on paper for this is, the applicant, Kroger, the Southeastern, the group that's representing Kroger, they agreed to this early on, before we even brought it to you. They agreed. They didn't like the other leg that we called the Jopina Road extension, and we took that out because they said that was not gonna work. But this one they agreed to in their site plan. If you look at it, it basically follows this same path. And the conditions of the 4 rezonings and the conditional use that we had, all of those basically say that they will reserve this road and they will build this road, in so many words, and it may be public and it may be private. Okay, so what I'm telling you is that this one's already got zoning conditions that are going to make it happen. The question is whether we want it to be, and there's a valid argument in September 7th when we had when I stood up and explained this. Some of the testimony was, well, like, why should this be a public road? Why do we need to take care of it? That's a question you can ask for all of these. Because if it's public, then we have to maintain it. And maybe it's drawn to standards and so forth, but it remains a private road, and then we don't have to maintain it. So I'm basically giving you an option that if you think that you don't want this to be a public road and maintained, then we're going to get it anyway under the zoning, and we wouldn't have to maintain it. So that's an argument for actually not including this one in the corridor map. If you want it to be public, we could still probably get it. I think we can get it under the code, under the zoning conditions. So this one's really a moot point. We're going to get it one way or the other.
Okay.
So I don't know what that means.
So when we agreed to the Kroger project,
Yeah.
it was not determined at that time that the road would be public or private?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
But it was agreed that they would build this particular road.
Yes.
So the only thing we really have to decide is if we want to make it private or public. Is that the
Yeah.
short end of it?
Yeah, it is. And if you want it to be a private, then you would vote not to include this. If you think it should be a public road controlled by the city, then you would vote to include it.
May I ask a few questions about
Sure.
private and public?
Sure.
If it is private and we run power lines and all that along the side, do we have access along the side to do that as a city?
We would ensure that we get the proper utility easements that are needed, and if there's electric power and so forth, the power companies will get their easements also. So
Okay.
that's not a worry.
Okay, and if it is private and the road needs maintenance, who dictates they'll do the maintenance?
That's a good question, very good question. The way it would be the property owner, and we don't really have a guarantee. The way we do this in subdivisions is we make the subdivision establish a homeowners association, one entity that's involved in the maintenance of any common areas. And here, you're raising a real good point I didn't think about when I tried to simplify it. It really means, hey, if it's private, what kind of arrangements are we going to have to maintain it? And what if a private property owner decides they want to close it or something like that, even though we have the zoning conditions? I mean, something could go awry with that. The only way to guarantee it's going to be a public street is to make it a public street, and then you control it. If you don't control it, I'm not sure we have every contingency covered.
And if it was private, because I like them paying the bill, what about our law enforcement stuff? Can we enforce on a private road?
It's not gated.
That's a good question.
You
I don't
cannot.
think you can.
But if it's,
I mean, you wouldn't run radar on it, for example.
but if they run a stop sign, you can, on a private road, right? No?
The rules
I only
of,
know that from
rules
where
of the
I
road are
reside.
for public streets, not private, and so I think that we would be pretty much hands-off on that part of it,
So
too.
if kids wanted to go over there, or some of us older people had a little drag race or something, we couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah, these are great questions. I hadn't thought that far with all of them.
Okay.
Dr. Whites, I do
Yeah,
have a question.
sure.
For clarity purposes. So if, let's just say that this development didn't happen, this would only go with the rezoning. It would not be put on the hardship of the,
Landowner.
current property owner now.
No, it has really, it would go with the zoning, and so if the property were developed, this would be a condition of development through the conditions of zoning. And then through this map process, it would be a road reservation at the time they tried to develop the property. But it does not obligate the property owner itself who's doing nothing. It's tied to development only. It's the development permit
Right.
that triggers it.
So if this is adopted tonight, it would not be a reflection on any property owner today
That's correct.
until it's rezoned, and then the
Well,
developer.
Well, it is rezoned for that, but
Well, I'm just saying
it doesn't go into, there's no obligation for anybody to do anything
Right,
unless you're developing a property.
correct.
Basically, it's a line to reserve that land.
That's correct.
If you come in with a development permit that puts a building in the middle of it, we bring it to a public hearing before the city council. If they bring a plan in like Kroger I would expect them to do, they bring in and they reserve it and they show it the way we've done it, there will be no public hearing before the council. They're doing what the code is asking them to do.
Okay. Thank you for clarity
welcome.
on that.
You're welcome.
Is there any difference in, Dave triggered my thought about, on a public versus a private, speed limits are a little bit different, maybe, I don't know, but I don't want anybody running fast through there to get to town center versus a private road, which has got all the amenities around it that would be limited in speed limit. Is there any difference in either one of those?
Another great question. I would ask you to reflect on your own neighborhood there in Crestwind and see what the situation is. You've got posted speed limits probably of 25 miles an hour.
Actually, it's 20.
20. The police are not going to go in and
Right.
police that, but it is enforceable by, I guess, the homeowners association. So I think the answer is that
Except
you
for
would,
ours.
in order to enforce it, you would have to have a private entity. In this case, we did not require a we did not require a property owners association for this road. And it's very good, I would say it's an oversight on my part to, if it were to be private, you know, why we need that as a mechanism to be sure that it's equitably, maintained, for example, because it's split into different pieces, right? And if those pieces get sold, what if one doesn't want to maintain it and the others do, and people get mad at them because, or God forbid, they even try and close it or hinder it or something like that, then we may be powerless to do anything about it.
If it's private.
If it's private, that's an argument for.
And I
being
think
public.
Brett was leaning toward it being staying public because of the sewer and the water connections.
Then we don't have to
Having an
secure
easement.
easements,
That's
because separate easements, if it's private, the question about easement stands, and we have to make sure during the planning process of the development that we get all of the easements that we need.
Is there a potential that if we remain private, that we could sit down with Kroger and put some of these stipulations in there, like maybe a road maintenance program? Somehow they could work with us, or we have a stipulation in there that the law would govern it, or? Because it'd be great if we could get what we want and have them pay for it.
Yeah, I would say yes, there is, but on the other hand, they don't come back to you now at this point for anything I don't anticipate that they would need to come back to the city council for anything. They can go straight to development permitting. And then we at the staff level would have to ask them to do that, and there's no, the code basis for requiring it is a little bit iffy, and so it'd be a little bit concerning. If they didn't want to do that, they might not have to do it. They could push us, and we'd have to back off of that.
Okay, so for the best interests of the city, then the private part could be very speculative.
Yes, in fact, I think I'm pretty convinced of that after all this discussion. There's things I didn't consider. I think that my recommendation would be we've just proven a lot of different reasons why the road ought to be public instead of private.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sam, do you want to move it into,
You can keep it and with the condition that it's public, yeah.
So vote to include it as public.
I agree with Sam in a way, but I would like to see if Kroger would be open to talking to us about adding some things in there. I don't know they would or not, but it's a
Jerry,
very expensive road.
Kroger's paying to put it in, right, or no?
yes?
Yes.
So we only take it over and maintain it. In the grand scheme of things, how long is that? And the
20.
overall roads, it's not that long, is it?
We would expect a road that was built to our standards, which it would require to be, to last 15, maybe 20 years before it needed resurfacing. Some roads don't get resurfacing due to limited funds in 15 to 20 years, but that's the lifetime we would expect for maintenance.
It's also bad for their business if the road is really torn up. Maybe they could even chip in at that point as well, correct?
Yes.
Like I said, I am fine with it going public, but when I'm spending their money, I really would like to ask the question, would you all consider this? And if they said yes, then it's a win-win. If they said no, I would vote public.
You mean private?
Public,
If they said yes.
yes.
Dr. Sterling?
Public,
Pardon?
public.
So we're voting to vote on it. Well, that's what we're agreeing to vote on it. Tracy?
Yeah, I include this one
Include it?
as a public road.
James?
I'm okay. Another question for Jerry, though. So if you got commercial businesses coming on this side in between the road and 53,
Right.
who pays for the curb cuts into the curbing? Would that be your developer who
Yes.
develops those businesses?
Yes, the
Okay.
developer would have to make
Not the city, not the
pay
city,
for the
if
connection,
it's
right.
public.
No, we're not pre-drawing out any curb cuts
Okay.
for different properties. They
And I
have to
said
build those.
public.
Okay.
Okay, so I moved it
Did
into...
you go on record on that one?
Pardon?
Did you go on record on that one?
Yes, public, and so I vote to vote on it later.
All right, so we go to the next one?
Yes, please.
All right, this one has two pieces to it, and I think we need to separate them. One is the Broad Street extension, the other is Town Center Parkway extension. The Broad Street extension is east of Broad Street. Remember, we had testimony, I forgot the gentleman's name. What, sir, your name?
Ryan Mitchell.
Mr. Mitchell has made clear, he was concerned about that one, and then he also said at the last meeting that if this was a green line rather than a red line, he liked the idea. So I just want to remind you of that one. We've had proposals to rezone. We've had one proposal to rezone the property 120.017, the 12 acres, through which this road would go, along with the property that's in for rezoning tonight to C1. And let me see if there's anything anything else I need to add about this one. It's part of a bigger picture. Obviously, Town Center Parkway, if it extended through here at the time of development, or at least was reserved, then it dead ends into Mr. Shannon Sell's property. Eventually, we would expect that to develop its zone. Both of these are zoned agricultural now, okay? So in order to develop, they're going to have to come to the city council and ask for zoning. The development permission is separate from this whole question. I mean, you deal with that separately, but I'm trying to point you in the direction of saying, if this gets developed, it should be developed with a, preferably that the road gets built and dedicated, the right-of-way dedicated, and the road actually gets built by the developer. That depends on what they're proposing and maybe how much density that they get on this site. And right now, all those are questions we don't know. So right now, all we're saying is, if you plan to get a development permit, you need to reserve this as a right-of-way. It doesn't say you have to give the land, doesn't say you have to build it. We would try and negotiate that through the zoning conditions, just like we did with the Kroger. I mean, the Kroger property. We don't know the outcome of that. We try and get the best deal for the city that we can. But at minimum, we want to reserve the corridor. So that's the reason for that one. The idea behind Broad Street was really just to also connect that whole project to the downtown. So it would be an extension, viewing this development, this 12 acres and other property along there as an extension of downtown, as opposed to some project that is sitting out there on State Route 332, Pendergrass Road. That was kind of the idea behind having it connect to the downtown. But that's not to take away from any opposition to it being a road through there, Broad Street. So that's all I have to say on it.
Jerry, there's a tremendous amount of traffic on New Street coming from the school.
Yeah.
So Broad Street, as it connects there to New Street, I mean, that's just creating another issue of traffic, because
Be a
it's really a
four-way.
two-way stop. Well, I guess it's four-way.
It would be a four-way intersection. It's three now. But I'm glad you raised New Street as a question. Honestly, the biggest concern I have is for the people along New Street, because that road is a substandard right-of-way. It's not wide enough. You don't even have enough right-of-way to put in a ditch, okay? And look at the travel patterns to the school and anywhere else. It went out on us. If you don't do some kind of alternative to deal with the long-range future traffic patterns, New Street is going to be the cut-through. It already is. And do you want to put your money on that road and run, here's my own opinion, you're going to run those residents who like their quality of life right now, but give them another year or 2 or 5, and they're going to have so much traffic on that road and so many problems that they're going to want to sell out and build townhouses themselves.
Or make it a one-way back to East Jefferson?
That's something you could look at, yes. But really, New Street is the reason why people need to get from Pendergrass Road to Maddox Road to West Jackson Road. And are they going to go on 53? No. They can't get out on 53 now. So where are they going to go? They're going to go on New Street. And so this is really an alternative to handle heavy traffic loads on a town center parkway extension with hope, which, I mean, it does sort of imply that there's going to be development, because that's who we would try and get to build the roads. And you may not want them to be developed, but these properties are valuable and they will be developed for something at some point. So that's all I have to say on this one.
Thank you, sorry. Thoughts? This is a big one.
It's two pieces.
Yeah, kind
You
of.
can separate, I recommend you separate them.
Are you insinuating that the Broad Street corridor would actually potentially increase the traffic flow on New Street?
No, Broad Street is independent. I'm saying that New Street, the traffic volumes on New Street will continue to increase every year, every month, no matter what we do, no matter what kind of development that we do. And unless you want to widen that road and spend a lot of money and take front yards away from residential property owners to build a better road, this is a better, the Town Center Parkway extension is a better option, in my opinion.
But the people are gonna be coming out that extension though, onto New Street, right?
Well, they could, but if they're going to the school and they have a road through Shannon's property, that's a more direct route and a better road and a faster road, so they'll take that to get there. Or any points north of there, if they're trying to go to East Jefferson Street and Maddox Road or West Jackson, they would take this road if it were there, if it were an option.
But if the Shannon one's not there, then it does dump more traffic onto New Street.
Then it's a dead-end road to nowhere.
Yeah. So this one is kind of dependent upon the other one. Correct.
Yeah, so in other words, you probably would not want to vote for this Town Center Parkway extension and then not vote for the Town Center Parkway extension on the next map.
Exactly.
Because it's part of the,
Yeah,
here we go to nowhere.
yeah. So if I may suggest, could we break this one up to two roads? So the Broad Street is dependent upon the next one we're gonna talk about, but the Town Center one is irrelevant of the next one.
Yeah, I'm recommending you take these one at a time on this map,
The Broad Street and the Town Center,
that you take them separately.
okay.
They're tied together. How do you separate them? So we could just say, put Broad Street in and it goes to a dead end, or what?
Well, no, they're on the same map, but they're not, they don't each require each other. I mean, Broad Street extension makes no sense if there's no Town Center Parkway to connect
So
it.
that's what, I'm basically saying they're tied together.
Okay, well, my point is that you
And then
could,
that's tied to the one that we can't see on that slide.
On the
It's
next,
all interrelated.
well,
I
so
don't see how you can break them apart.
maybe then what you're saying is, on this map and the next one is two segments of the same road that should be voted together. I would agree with that you need to,
Okay, yeah.
those, you don't want to do one without the other.
Yes.
And
I
so
would
vote, if you bring up Town Center Parkway extension, you vote for both red lines on two different maps. But that has nothing to do with Broad Street extension. You could have that and never connect Broad Street over. Or you could connect Broad Street with just a pedestrian way with the green line instead of a red line.
What is the purpose of the Broad Street extension? What is that purpose? Because it looks like
Yeah.
to dump onto New Street, which is what we're trying to avoid.
No, it's really, the intent was to connect it across New Street. Again, I started to mention this, but picture the 12-acre site that's under, being marketed for development right now. You know which one we're talking about. We had a proposal for 210 apartment units that was withdrawn. That property's gonna come back in for development at some point, pending your moratorium later on the agenda. But when that comes in, I forgot where I was going with this now. It's gonna develop. It will develop for something, and I lost where I was going with it. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, thank you. I did start to say this, is that what I envision on that is, without this road, Town Center Parkway extension, you're going to have a project, whatever you approve, whatever zoning it is, whether it's an institution, whether it's multifamily, whether it's commercial, it's going to be oriented to Pendergrass Road. It's going to sit out there like its own little thing, big thing. If you bring in other properties, and, including pieces that are along New Street, and orient this toward downtown, it suddenly makes itself a part of the fabric of downtown as opposed to some project that's sitting out there where all you can get to it is by Pendergrass Road. So that's the thought when I came up with Broad Street Extension was, if you can make this project work with multiple property owners and it's part of the downtown, it's a better project. It helps with more density. It would be more density because these pieces would probably sell out. And that's what would happen. That would justify building the road also at the same time. That's the thought process behind it.
Jerry, where does the creek comes down through there behind the subdivision?
Yeah, the way it's drawn right now is it would hug the outside buffer of that stream. It's not shown there, but that's a good point. On the right side of Town Center Parkway here is a
That road
stream.
would even have to come further into that property, right?
I think it's drawn about where it would be.
Okay.
That still gives you 50 feet or more, to have the buffer, and you might even encroach a little bit into the buffer if necessary.
You made the statement that if we tried to do New Street, you'd have to go in and take property away from the owners, correct?
It's close.
Yes, because if we don't have enough, it's a 30-foot, it's either a 30 or 40-foot right-of-way. We don't even have drainage ditches along it. So we don't know if we don't know if it drains good or not. We'll have drainage problem, but you can't widen it,
Yeah.
with a 30-foot right-of-way. We'd have to go in and ask for right-of-way, or we'd have to take right-of-way, or something to make that a better road. It's a problem, in my view.
And if you take right away or take land, does that not devalue what they have left?
It very well could, depends on how much of it you take. You know, sometimes you might have to take the entire piece of property if you're trying to just take 10 or 15 or 20 feet off of it, but it ruins the property. That's where the appraisers and lawyers make a lot of money talking about
Some of
those
those
kind of
houses
things.
are close. on the
Yeah, I
road.
know.
Yeah.
I know it all the time.
Tiny little street.
Next.
Well,
So I guess the next vote would be, Town Center Parkway Extension on both maps, this one and the next map. And then follow that up with whether Broad Street Extension should be included, and if so, should it be a red line or should it be a green line?
I'm for that recommendation. The town center is almost a must, but Broad Street, I'm not so sure about just yet.
I agree with that.
So take them one at a time.
Okay. So we're going to include it. Oh, Sam,
I'm
Dave?
not for including, like I asked earlier, there haven't been any traffic studies. We're throwing it, and you're taking land away from a landowner, which devalues his property.
I probably should have said
There
include
should
it
be
with
a strong
conditions.
case why, traffic studies or,
Well, that's a fair point, and it was made in September. Part of the matter of doing this is that it's been urgent because of the property, the extensive rezonings that we're faced with, and trying to get, not lose the opportunity to do something, because once you zone it and you've made no arrangements, then that opportunity is lost basically forever. And the only thing I would say, I'm not a traffic engineer, but I am a planner. I consider myself a transportation planner with more than 30 years' experience, and if there is a next best thing to a traffic engineer, it's a transportation planner. And so I've got enough knowledge to stand by the fact that, not the fact, but my assertion that these are beneficial from a traffic standpoint. I didn't run a model to prove that, but a lot of it's, I mean, everybody thinks they're a traffic engineer. Everybody knows they have a solution to the problem, and I'm one of them too. I think I'm one too.
So the question then is, do we want to include the last two maps touching each other, the town center portion of it, into the new business 1 and 2? With conditions? With conditions, are you?
I'm sorry, just to be clear,
Yeah, no problem.
so if you're looking at the current map, I think, were you gonna take the streets separately on that map?
Yeah.
So not as a whole?
The
So
first,
which would you-
first decision would be, do we include Town Center Parkway Extension, which is shown on 2 maps, from Town Center through the Cell property over to the school on East Jefferson. That would be the first one you need consensus on. Do we include that? Are we voting to include that in the motion or not?
Let's ask the question. Sam?
I'm not for it. I'm against
So you don't want to include it in the
it. I don't wanna
motion?
include it.
I would do the town center, if the Cell property, town center went on, I would hold out the Broad Street because it does exactly what they're talking about to the property.
We'll keep that one separate, because we're
Yeah.
not voting on that one
Yeah.
just yet, so
Yeah.
just hold that thought.
So you're saying include the town center?
Yes.
Dr. Sterling?
I don't want to include.
You don't?
No.
James?
No.
Tracy? And I do, so that's
I think you got a 4-2 to exclude it.
4-2.
Now, you wanna do the Broad Street?
Yes. Well, although I think it's a moot point now, isn't it? I mean, you wouldn't connect it to nowhere, so I think that one withers on the vine.
May I ask a question about the town center? I don't see how doing the town center impacts the new street taking residential property at all.
Well,
It takes one, for sure.
it doesn't really. I mean, it's an effort to give you an alternative to New Street, meaning that you wouldn't have to do any improvements to New Street.
That's exactly what I thought.
Yeah, that was, and if you don't have it, then sooner or later, something's probably gonna have to be done to New Street.
And that's the reason I voted yes, because I don't want to go into New Street and potentially try to widen it and take land where it sounds like 4 people want to do that. So I just wanted to make sure the point's clear that if we don't do the town center, we're going into New Street and going to take property.
Well, you're,
Potentially.
Not
Is
necessarily.
that what we're doing?
no, we're not committing to doing that, but I'm implying that road is substandard. I'm not implying that, I'm stating that, it's substandard. I'm implying that there will be a role for the city council with money to spend in the future on New Street if there's not an alternative. And that may mean right-of-way, taking of right-of-way. It may be, hundreds of thousands of dollars of improvements to New Street to widen it, et cetera, to put drainage into it and stuff like that.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, but what we're wanting to do is take the traffic off of Pendergrass from going straight into New Street and divert it.
Correct. But now we've voted 4-2 on that one, so I suggest that we go ahead and move on.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay.
Okay, so then the next one, Mayor, will be, do you want to include Broad Street at all? And like I said, that one, I don't think you even need to vote on it, because I think
where does it go?
it dies away. Does everybody agree with that? That
Yep.
Broad Street would go away? Okay? We can move on then? Okay.
Moving
So,
on.
now, the next map is, all Shannon Cell Property Providence Group. And so, now we've already decided that Town Center will not be a part of the vote. Then, the so-called cell connector is, now this one is in the plan that the council approved. The right-of-way is shown on the property up until that line. We don't have a pointer, but, up until that diagonal line right there, that's shown in the, land use plan for the planned unit development that Providence did. Cell connector up to this, up to this line right here, that's their boundary. So, even though it's in there, I don't know that this one, if you're not gonna have a town center to connect it to, I think that one goes away by default also, because it's part of a connected whole. Right, does anybody disagree with that? Okay, so then that one, then the only one we're talking about here is what's called West Jackson Road Extension. And the history behind that is, this was the one that I recommended to the developers of Providence Group, and I recommended a condition that it be a public road, connecting Pendergrass Road to West Jackson. And they did not want to do this, let's be clear. They did not ever agree to this. They want it to be a private development. They will build a road that eventually, or that in a circuitous route will go connect those two, but it'll have a gate on both sides. And according to their plan. And so,
So that road's gonna be private?
that road would be private according to what the developers want. And if that's as far as you want to go with it, then you would vote no. Then you would vote to not include this, because the developers do not want to make that. They did not agree to it, and their project has been zoned as if it will be a private street.
So they didn't agree with that, but they agreed for the other side.
They agreed to the other one, yes, because Shannon Sell basically proposed that as an alternative to the one that they would not agree to. That's where we came up with the Sell connector in the first place.
But we can't have that one now because of what we just did away with.
Right, it would be a road to nowhere. So,
Well, then Jerry White and E.G. Barnett opened up, back up.
well, yeah, there's a whole, James remembers the history behind this,
Yeah.
but,
That road cut all the way
it's-
from Pendergrass over to.
it's probably worth mentioning is that back in 2016, the landowner Shannon Sell petitioned the Jackson County Board of Commissioners to abandon E.G. Barnett Road through his property. Yeah, it's over here, it's noted on the far right, and then it traverses pretty close to Brighton Park subdivision and connected all the way over to Maddox Road, not West Jackson, not
Yeah.
East Jefferson, Maddox. And so, but the city at that time, including Jerry White's the city planner, and the mayor and the council at that time all wrote the Board of Commissioners asking them not to abandon E.G. Barnett Road. Because, and the point we made in the memo was given actually to the council, not everybody was on the council then, but that memo that I wrote in 2016 went to the then people on the council, and it showed you the history that we've been concerned about being able to connect and get to Maddox Road or West Jackson from Pendergrass without going all the way through town, using 53 or using new road, new street. And so it just reinforced the idea of why this is needed, because we could try and reinstitute E.G. Barnett Road, I think maybe is what James is thinking, but that's a little dirt easement right now.
Wouldn't that come up to the same objection to the developers?
Well, yeah, probably, and see now the
Right through
board,
property.
if that had not been done, it would have been a city council decision, but at the time, it was unincorporated, and so it was the Board of Commissioners' decision. So,
That's the last map.
That's the last one.
Do we want to include the, what are you calling it?
West
The West
Jackson
Jackson Road
Extension.
extension, include that? It's a yes or no, James?
I mean, it's a subdivision private road, so they gotta pay for the maintenance and upkeep, so it's not really a burden on the city. It's a burden on the city because we're not able to use it, I guess a cut through over to the school.
Has it already been approved as a private road?
No, it's on their zoning plan that the council approved, authorizing private streets and gates. And the only thing I'd add to partially rebut what James says is, it's true you wouldn't have the cost there, but then again, I mean, I think the alternative is New Street. You know, you're gonna spend money somehow, some way to deal with traffic patterns, and New Street's probably the second most obvious choice for moving traffic through the area.
Yeah, I'm okay with West Jackson Road extension, and the rest can go away.
Tracy?
I would agree with James.
To include it?
Yeah, to include it, and then if it becomes a private road, it's a private road.
Sam?
I'm fine with that.
Dave?
May I ask a question?
Please?
If we do just the West Jackson, how will that help the school traffic flow?
It doesn't, not directly, in my opinion. It may get people in and out of there quicker. But it's not gonna resolve any bottleneck on East Jefferson. The bottleneck really, well, no, let me take that back. The developer is required by conditions of zoning, Providence Group, that the council approved, to, whether this road is a public road or not, either a roundabout or an improved four-way intersection. In my opinion, again, Sam, you're right, I'm not a traffic engineer, that's why we asked for the conditions of zoning on that. We asked for a traffic study that the city manages, not the applicant, so that they're fair to us and not biased to the developer. But they proposed a roundabout, and I talked to the police chief, and my thought on it is, there's people out here that, you know, go through that intersection all the time, and it's backed up. It's backed up terribly because of the school, and I think a roundabout would just be snarled with traffic.
So we're going nowhere?
And then there's other things that you may consider, but in any event, it would help there in the sense that you would get road improvements on East Jackson. You would eliminate that bottleneck. You would also but this is under the conditions of zoning now, okay? Nothing to do really with this map. We will get that. They will connect that road. It'll just have a gate on the south side. But they'll correct that intersection where the buses can't make that turn, and so they don't go that way. They can't take that turn, and so this would correct where they'd realign that road. They'd realign West Jackson with East Jefferson with West Jackson Road Extension. That'd be either a four-way or it would be a roundabout. I'm thinking a four-way is gonna move traffic.
So it
Because of the
would
school.
help the flow, but not necessarily reduce the amount.
Correct.
Okay, question then, if I'm looking at this map correctly, and I look at, I'm gonna, for the audience, the little bitty arm that's down there at the bottom, the town center that was just taken off.
Yeah.
If we remove that little section there and still had the road at the bottom, the cell connector, and then the top portion of the town center, would that remove some of the traffic for the school? And it's a double question. If it does remove the traffic, does it flow it, now that we removed the town center, right into New Street?
Coming through the subdivision.
I'm not sure I'm following you entirely.
saying take that bottom
You're
off?
asking
You
is,
can redraw that.
if you
Yeah,
have the,
that's all.
Straighter, right?
That's what I'm thinking.
the upper part of town center, and you kept the cell connector, does that move traffic in and out of the school? I think it would, but it wouldn't matter that much, because most of the traffic is not going out Pendergrass Road. So that's your only relief. You might have I'm just guessing here, a 10 to 20% impact. Not a lot.
Okay.
Now, let me add one more thing about this road, because sometimes you look at this and you're like, okay, I'm making a decision and it's do or die. It's never reversible or anything. But what I would point out was, if you were to include this West Jackson Road extension, and the developer comes in with a preliminary plat maybe next month, okay, because they're working on it now, and what that does is it triggers a public hearing, and you have to decide, assuming this is in your road plan, then you have to decide, what are we going to do with the developer? The developer's probably going to say, we don't want to do anything. You could have this in your map and adopt it and still decide after more testimony and information and preliminary engineering that you weren't going to require it to be reserved. So it's not a, what's the word, irreversible. It's not irreversible. I mean, it's a line on the map. What it means, it gets you to the negotiating table, is what it does.
Dave, back to you.
Right now, I'm not seeing where without the parkway, the flow doesn't make a lot of sense to me right now. The other way, the things kind of worked well and helped New Street a lot. I'm just nervous about what's going to happen in New Street now.
Well, if I can respond, Mayor, that's really the whole, I mean, I think you answered it, Councilmember Brown, about the value of it is that if you don't have this, and you want to go, if you're coming from 124 over at the Traditions, and you want to go to Maddox Road or you want to go to West Jackson, where are you going to go? You're going to go either out to 53 and plow through a bunch of traffic and wait to get out and take you a long time, or you're going to cut through on New Street. So it very much is a reliever of New Street, in my opinion. It would take a sizable potential number of traffic volumes off of that road if you were to build this and make it a public street.
The West Jackson.
The West Jackson, yes.
I have a question. Okay, West Jackson is the road that goes right down in front of the school, right?
No, that's East Jefferson.
Oh, that's East Jefferson.
In front of the fire department.
Oh, in front of the fire department. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, it's further up.
Right, and then it runs into Jefferson.
Right
Yeah.
there where that's the train.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And see, that's where the traffic is, and the traffic is from 2:30 to 3:30 on one side.
Yeah.
If you coming down in the other direction, yes, you can pass, but if you're trying to go the same flow as all the car riders, it's a problem.
It is.
Yeah, for at least about an hour, because I live right down Maddox Road. And so if it's 2:30, 3:30, I don't go that way. You know, I go out Maddox until it runs into 124.
How do you all feel about tabling this particular map for further discussion?
You want to do both?
I'm
Yeah.
fine with it because I'm still stuck on town center, unfortunately.
Actually,
That seems to be a critical road.
table both. How about tabling both?
Number 3 and 4.
Well, we didn't voted on, which one did we vote on, 4 to 2? On the
Yes.
other map? On the
We
town center?
voted on the other map.
Yeah, you voted on.
Cell
the,
connector came off by acclamation.
I know.
Because it went nowhere.
Okay, so cell come off.
Cell connector would already be off, I think.
You want to make a suggestion about these 2 tonight? These were 1 and 2.
Yes.
So on 3 and 4, continue discussion.
Mm-hmm. So Jennifer was just confirming, I would like to vote on what we're calling 1 and 2.
Is that?
No, that's 4.
It's the one at Alma Farm and the one at.
And the second map that we went through, and then 3 and
Gotcha.
4, if we can, postpone that on this one.
At the Alma Farm and Kroger.
Yep.
Vote on those tonight.
Are you okay with that?
Yes, map 4.
With those 2 maps
yeah.
included, and then the other 2 maps could be added to later dates if. Table these. Vote on these 2 tonight.
Table,
Alma and Kroger,
Table 3 and 4.
table 3 and 4. That has the town center cell connector.
No, we done voted on that one right there, and now you want to table it?
We
Yeah,
had,
we already voted on
when did you vote on it?
4 to 2,
Oh, just now?
just a while ago.
it. When
Okay.
Debbie wrote down.
Did
The Broad Street, the one that has the Broad Street on it.
Mm-hmm.
right, we voted against
Okay,
that
so
one.
you're saying 4 to 2 was to take Broad Street and Town Center out?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
The only one we want to table is this next one.
And then table map 4.
Table 4.
Okay, so I
Table
think,
4.
My understanding.
so the motion is to approve both the comprehensive plan amendment and the corridor map, amendment to the subdivision regulations. And the maps that will go with each of those, according to this motion that's to be made, is the green line, can I call it the green line? It's the only green
Map
line.
1.
yeah.
And then the Peachtree Road extension.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the only addition to that is that there's another map that will be tabled that'll come back in December for consideration, and that is the West Jackson Road extension.
Yeah.
Everything else
Yes, that's correct.
goes away.
Goes
Yep,
away.
Goes away,
Everybody's
except for
clear?
that.
So that's the motion that somebody's gonna make in second, I think.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm using your words. You good with
Okay,
that?
is the
Making
motion
motion
made?
for that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Second.
so,
Do you have a second?
do I have a second on that motion?
What's the motion?
What Jerry said.
You want me to repeat it?
Yes.
Okay, the motion is going to be to approve the comprehensive plan amendment for a corridor map and also approve the subdivision regulations ordinance amendment for the corridor map with the, following projects included. The green line, meaning the multi-use. The one that is, the Kroger project, the
Yep.
Peachtree
The Peachtree
Road
extension.
extension. Those are the only maps that are going in
That's it.
at that time, but we're tabling the West Jackson Road extension for consideration, next month in December, and you can vote on that one to include it or exclude it at that time.
Correct.
So 3's a no, 1
Yeah,
and 2
3's
is
a no.
yes,
3's a no.
4 is a table.
4 is a table.
Do we also need to put in the minutes that we are, that the mayor and council are voting on the Kroger map, to make it public as well, a public road?
Yes.
I think by virtue of
Yes.
including it, it is, we were debating
I just
public
want
or
to
said-
private,
in the
but
minutes.
if it's
Yeah.
on this map, it's public, it's
Yes.
to be public.
Now,
It'll be
I
public
forgot,
with,
we need to add
reaching
what
out,
the,
yeah.
Okay, so
what the
did we
city
vote on
attorney said. Remember about, he told us if we were making
made the
changes to this. I'm sorry.
No,
I defer.
I was just asking, you were making the motion, did we vote?
No, I phrased the motion for someone else to make, because
Oh, you
I
phrased
can't
it
make
for
the
someone.
motion.
Okay.
But I'm phrasing it, if you agree with it, then you can say that, that's what we agree.
Based on
But-
the maps.
But let me also add to the, I forgot what the city attorney advised us. He said if we do any changes to this, it would have to be for a first reading, okay? And that we have to come back for a second reading anyway. So, what does that mean? It
Yeah.
means, go ahead, if you want a motion to approve that, if you want to vote for it, you're approving it. It's a first reading, we still have to come back in December and vote on it again because we made
Second.
changes.
Yeah.
And then that works out conveniently, because then you got this other tabled matter that you can decide at that time whether you approve it or not.
So the motion is for approval, or, a motion is for the first reading only, correct?
Correct, thank you.
Okay, so with that, and was there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I'm gonna do a roll call vote. James? Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes? I'm a yes. Yes?
Yes.
Dave, yes?
Yes?
Sam, yes.
Okay.
No no's.
We're on the same page.
That was a long 15 minutes, Jeremy.
I know, I'm sorry about that. Sorry about that.
Well,
It
And
was
we're not
really
even
needed,
done
though.
with it either.
It was needed.
well informed, well informed.
The mayor made the motion, right?
Yes.
She's, and, Ms. Sterling second.
And Dr. Sterling seconded.
Okay, new business.
New business?
Yes, we are going to new business, and I believe I'm also deferring to Dr. White on an update on this or a discussion on this, correct, Jerry?
Yes, I can address this.
Quickly.
There were discussion
No, I'm kidding.
on Thursday night about whether C1 was appropriate or whether another category might be appropriate, including the office residential district. I wanted to point out for the record that if you do have the authority to assign it a less restrictive, a more restrictive zoning district. So even though the applicant asked for C1, you could, if you desired, zone it to OR, office residential. That zoning district allows for an office use in the existing structure, but it does not allow the tear down of a residential dwelling to build an office building. And it would not allow for any commercial uses. The other thing I would add to this is that there's some concern about if we do zone at C1, the folks that are marketing the 12 acres right next to it are looking at that and may look at that as a precedent set for them to come in and apply for C1 zoning. So that was a point that was made in your last meeting, and I don't know that I addressed that fully, either one of these in the staff report, so I wanted to add that, but the initial staff recommendation was for C1 zoning.
Well, I would like to make a recommendation that we do look at zoning at OR for the following reasons. The current city plan states that we're going that direction versus construction. The 12 acres next door, we can pretty much rest assured the minute that we zone it C, that's going to come in. And with what we just did, taking the town center corridor out, if we do go C1 or C2 in that area, we've got massive potential construction coming in there. The other reason is, even though I would love to go C1 and give the gentleman exactly what he wants, my job is not to protect the individual, it's to look more towards the city. My job's also not to raise the property values, that's the landowner's job. So what I heard the lady say last week, which I thought was kind of testy, was the main reason he wants to do it is to get as much money as possible, which I understand, but that's not our job to do that. So I would like to go with what the use is. They asked for, to be able to put office space in there, not tear anything down, basically live his life out there as is, and the OR gives him everything he asked for. And it does increase the value somewhat. I'm just trying to protect that area right there, the 12 acres in this little area.
Mayor, just one addition to what was said. It gives them what they want to a degree, but not entirely. They did want some commercial uses, some small-scale neighborhood commercial uses that would not be allowed under the OR district. I just wanted to make that clear, that the OR is not a perfect match with what the applicant asked for.
I'd like to make a motion. I make a motion to approve Z 23-12 as a C1 development.
I'm
surprised you did. So, okay, but I'm doing roll call votes, just like we did the last time.
Okay? Recommendation, and Dr. Sterling, you second, correct?
Right.
Thank you.
I'm in favor of that,
So you're a yes?
for that, yes.
For C1, no.
James?
Yes.
I'm a no.
Yes.
I'm a yes.
4-2.
The ordinance is approved for C1.
Okay, let's go to new business item number 2, SPOS payments, and number 3. I'm gonna turn these over to Tiffany for a summary, just so it's clear.
Okay, do you want me to do them separate or combine it?
Yes, separate, please.
Okay, so for number 2, the SPOS payments, we need y'all's approval for the way we want to, I guess, go to the SPOS committee to have the money broke out. We have $612,531.03 left in SPOS 6 funds. We're asking for $100,000 of that to be reimbursed to put towards the basketball courts that we are currently building. $512,531.03 would be used to go towards the water sewer debt, the final GFA loan payment that we have. Does everybody have that part?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
So I wanna make a motion on this one, and I'm gonna take a roll call vote. Is there a second on that motion?
I second.
James, yes or no?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Dr.
Yes.
Sterling?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you. Let's go to number 3, please.
So number 3 is kind of in conjunction with number 2. The total debt left on our last GFA loan, which is sewer debt, is $1,692,011. If approved to apply the SPOS amount of the 512, then we are asking for $1,179,479.97 to be paid for using the expansion account. And then we would be free of sewer debt at that point.
And how long have we been paying on this?
2013, I think, is when it was started.
10 years.
2013.
2013.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and we could, I explained to, Mayor Martin earlier and Councilmember Brown, GFA has changed things, so you know how we used to just pay them down a little at a time? You only have 2 of those you can do now. Once you get to the 3rd one, they start charging you a percentage, so it's
Right.
really not worth it just to pay it down anymore on something this small anyways.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Tiffany, is this the one we're paying $26,000 a month on?
Yeah, yes.
That's correct, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to vote on this. Is there a second?
A second?
James?
I'm good.
Yes. Tracy?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Dr. Sterling?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Sam?
Get
Awesome.
it off the books.
That's a huge, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we're gonna go to, item number 4. This is the resolution adopting, moratorium, and I'm gonna go to Jerry for a little bit of summary on this one, as we've talked.
Okay, Councilmember David Brown initiated this on Thursday night at your work session. Based on that and what we believe was general consent of the council, we brought back to you a resolution. And first, let me say what this is not doing, okay? This has nothing to do with building permits. It will not stop building permits or put a moratorium on them at all. It does not stop subdivision plating processes. All it does is it stops annexations for residential that involve 8 units or more. And by definition, that means a planned unit development and a MFR multifamily residential category. It could involve others if they had 8 or more units. That's the cutoff. It also would prohibit for a period of 1 year, that's the intent, residential rezonings of property already in the city for, in essence, 8 units or more. And so we've defined that as anything that would be 8 residential units or more, but that specifically includes any multifamily residential category and any PUD category. This was drafted and given to the city. I drafted it on Friday. The city attorney reviewed it today. The assistant clerk has given you a version that has very minor changes to what I had recommended that were based on the city attorney. One reference, instead of approving hundreds of dwelling units already, he asked, is it appropriate to do, say, thousands? And technically it is appropriate because in this last short period of time, council has approved over 2,000 housing units between 3 different projects. So it is fair to change that. The other, I'm trying to remember, he had one other change. You got a red line version of it? Yeah, he added some language under section 1 that clarifying that we were talking there about land already in the city limits. So with those changes, you have the planning staff consent to pass it, and you have the city attorney's consent to pass it. And if you put it into effect, it could be, you can always come back at any month and lift it if you felt that was appropriate. 12 months is a long period of time, but you can set it for that, and that's the proposal, so there you are.
Dr. Weiss, does this have any impact on commercial?
No, not at all, and I failed to mention that, but it would not stop a commercial annexation, it would not stop a non-residential rezoning at all.
And will this have any impact on the current homes that have gone through the past councils?
No, not at all.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion. Is there a second to that for a roll call vote?
I will second it.
Your motion is to approve?
To approve, yes.
I will second that.
Sam?
I'm okay with it.
Dave?
Yes.
Dr. Sterling?
No.
I'm a yes. Tracy?
No.
James?
I'm a no. Needs further discussion.
Vote.
3-3? Was the vote 3-3?
3-3.
Yeah, that fails on the basis of a tie. Motion to approve is denied. Or vote is 3-3 tie is the result is the motion fails.
Okay, moving on to item number 5. This is authorization to initiate the process for Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay, Mayor and Council, once again, the direction that the the City Council has given, I believe, I think there's consensus for this, is that the the city would like to reinstate its Planning and Zoning Commission. And this action is a simple vote to authorize to initiate the amendments, plural, to bring that back, to make that a reality. There's many code changes that have to be done to the zoning ordinance, to the subdivision regulations, and then the city code proper to reinstate the planning commission. And if you vote to do this, we will advertise it. It will come back before you in December for further consideration and a vote. It will be a public hearing on the zoning ordinance amendment and the subdivision regs amendment.
Thank you, Jerry. So I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I second it.
Thank you. James?
I just need to see a list of, I guess, of all the people that's, of course, we don't have that list of all the people that's applied for the Zoning and Planning Commission, or any of the, I guess, the guidelines or bylaws that we need to change. Is that what you're thinking, Jerry?
That's what this is to do, is to create those.
Well,
That process.
yeah,
Yes.
the planning commission was basically abolished, was written out of the code. And so you have to write the planning commission itself back into the code, and then the functions that they had were they give you recommendations, and they hold public hearing on annexations, rezoning, variances, conditional uses. They also review preliminary subdivision plats, not final. And so we have to write, to answer your question, we have to write them back into those functions by amending the zoning ordinance. And then you're right, they need their own bylaws as well too, so they
That
would.
we don't have.
One of their first order of business would be for them to adopt, if they're created, to adopt their own set of bylaws.
I'm a no.
Tracy?
I'm not against Planning and Zoning Commission, but at this time, I think it ought to go to the, January meeting, so I'll vote no.
Okay. I'm a yes. Dr. Sterling? No. Dave?
Yes.
Sam?
No.
So the motion to approve it failed by a vote of 4-2.
Mm-hmm.
Motion is not approved.
Okay, item number 6, Resolution 2023-24. This is designation of Hushton's Jingle Mingle to allow alcohol during the Jingle Mingle, which is December 8th, correct? Pardon? Okay, thank you. I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
We agree on alcohol.
Mhm.
Mayor and council, line item number 7 is an authorization to update the signers on the bank account. As of right now, we have myself and our acting mayor at the time, Councilmember James Lawson. This is just up for a discussion to act on. Our mayor, Debbie Martin, would like to be a signer on the bank account. You can, it can still continue to stay as me and our new mayor, but that is up for discussion.
So I would like to serve as backup or something. I don't need to sign. I don't want to sign everything. But if she's not available, then I guess I'd be called in or something. Is that it, Jeremy?
So, as I stated, right now, Councilmember James Lawson is on the bank account. I think what you're saying is you'd like to stay on as a backup in case there's an emergency where I'm not available or Mayor
I don't mind
Martin
helping
is
out
not.
if that's the case, but if,
It's totally up to y'all.
Other discussion on this? I'm going to make a motion to add me to the bank account as a signature. Thank you.
I second that.
All in favor? Great, thank you. And my final motion of the day, I make a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, I needed a second. Everybody second. All in favor? Thank you. Y'all have a great Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Okay, I'll be right there.
Dr. White, I apologize if I missed y'all.
We did all that. I just needed to discuss.
We all have y'all. So, just because